Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
we did a whole segment on what are the top 3 things that you can do to lose weight. And one was obviously the client placement. How are we going to get, a supplement on the Today Show? I remember exactly where I was sitting when I received the confirmation email from the booking producer. And then you flew me up to New York City. I was 23 at the time. In the end, the results that we got for the client, and then they were able to say that this product has been featured on the Today Show, I know went a really long way with them. And then we celebrated after.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Nisi Box. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of perfecting the pitch and working with great people like Lauren, who is here today. Welcome, Lauren George. She is a former and forever pitch star. She started working with us very early at Pitch Publicity way back in 2007 when the company was actually called Pitch Inc. A fun little fact that many people may not know about. We've been around long enough to have a name change. So welcome, Lauren.
Thanks for having me, Amy. I'm excited to be here.
So I'm going to tell everyone how great you are in a second, but I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I want to do a fire round of questions. Is that okay?
Let's go.
All right. These were not pre-approved, but we'll see how we do. Okay. So I'm going to give you 2 options. Just pick one, whatever comes to mind first, and we'll see if our audience can kind of get to know you before I spill all the tea on how great Lauren is. So here we go. Hilton or Marriott?
Hilton.
Okay. Good Morning America or Today Show?
Today Show.
Orlando or Las Vegas?
Ooh, Orlando. Tough one.
Ballet or gymnastics?
Gymnastics, 100%.
And cruise or cabin in the woods?
Ooh, cabin in the woods for me.
Okay. I wasn't sure which way you were going to go on that, but I'd have to join you at the cabin in the woods because I'm not much of a cruise fan lately. All right. So Lauren came to Pitch fresh out of college. It was her first PR job after graduating from the University of Central Oklahoma with a degree in journalism. So I always like to say that we converted her when she joined our world of PR at Pitch. She came on board during an incredibly exciting and fast-paced chapter for us when I was building the company along a traditional agency model with an office and employees and parking lot and a growing client roster. But then the unexpected happened, as it often does, and the Great Recession hit. And it was a time of major upheaval for businesses. And at the start of 2009, I had to start letting employees go. And Lauren was the first employee that I left that had let go, which I never had done that before in being a boss. We're going to chat about this a little bit later on in our conversation. But since then, Lauren has built a phenomenal career in PR, holding roles at the Children's Home Society of Florida, Linda Costa Communications Group, and eventually joining Hilton Grand Vacations, where she's been for nearly a decade. This year, she was promoted to Vice President of Communications. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And in her various roles at Hilton Grand Vacations, she has overseen everything from media relations and executive visibility to crisis management and national corporate social responsibility partnerships. Lauren even sits on the board of the company's foundation as an accredited public relations professional. Earning her APR, Lauren has a proven track record of elevating brand reputation and leading strategic communications at the highest level. So welcome, Lauren. I'm really excited to bring you back to where it all began and jump right in and how you make success happen, or as you know, as we call it, MSH, make shit happen here. We even made shit happen. You guys don't know this, but we just made shit happen because Lauren was having a hard time even logging on to our studio here, but we got it done. So
We made it happen. MSH.
one message. All right, so let's start. Let's go way back. I know it's hard to do this. I had to really get my memory cells going when I was writing all these questions for you. But I want to start at the beginning and talk about what initially prompted you to apply to pitch back in 2007, especially you had a journalism degree. I think right before us, you were working at CBS TV in Tampa doing graphic design for them. What made you want to shift to PR or what made you apply?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, Amy, and first of all, thank you for the wonderful introduction. That is so nice of you. I'm happy to be here. So, as you mentioned, I did major in journalism, specifically, actually, print journalism. So, my goal was really to become a reporter at, the Tampa Tribune or St. Pete Times, really keep my print reporter hat on. I moved to Tampa 2 days after I graduated from college. So I moved, I didn't know anyone, no contacts whatsoever. And it was a really interesting time back in 2006. All of the news stations were becoming very, very lean. So there really just weren't any job opportunities in the print space. So I was able to get a job at CBS News in Tampa, which is obviously broadcast. So I worked there, short stint, about 6 months, as you mentioned. But I didn't just do graphic design there. I also was able to work in the control room. I worked on the assignment desk, and then, also wrote some of the stories in more of like an associate producer type role for the anchors to read. Um, so, I realized pretty quickly that it was a lot of hard work, a lot of overnights, and it just wasn't everything I thought it would be. So I did start looking into some PR jobs. I had a lot of interest in PR, from one, the writing aspect of it. I love to write, still do to this day. And then just, I thought it would be an easy transition for me into PR, specifically at Pitch Inc., because I was sitting on the assignment desk getting all the pitches from the publicists and all the PR people out there. So I was like, I could be on the other end of this phone and doing the work of a PR person. And when I read the job description, it sounded just right up my alley. I was really excited to try something new. And then obviously met with you in office just outside of Tampa. And, we really hit it off. And I could tell that you were someone who wanted to really invest time and mentor others. And that's really what I needed at, 22 years old and my first PR job. So I was just really excited to join the team at such a pivotal time for Pitch.
And Lauren brings up a good point. Pitch actually started in Florida. So, as she said, we were in the Tampa Bay area. Now, you were one of the few people who actually worked for me in a traditional office setting because I pivoted to remote in 2010. But can you just talk about what that environment was like? Because a lot of people don't know me in that environment that work for me now. But how would you describe the culture and your early impressions of working at Pitch?
Sure. So first I have to talk about the office space because I should have known walking through the door that one day you would be in New York City because it was a very New York City type vibe, how you decorated everything. It was like, the dark walls, the wood floors, the pictures of New York everywhere. So, Pitch was always destined to be in New York City. The culture there that you created was phenomenal. I remember just how motivating you were. You were everyone's biggest cheerleader. The team, for the most part, got along really, really well. And then you always created these really fun and exciting like games for us almost. Like we were pitch queens and the pitch star of the week would have like a huge celebration in your office and you'd really just highlight our top accomplishments for the week. So, I think that just created a sense of, belonging and excitement and engagement for all of your employees at the time.
Thank you. Yeah. I forgot about the whole pitch queen, and then I think we hired a guy, and then I had to change the terminology a little
It
bit.
was pitch queen or king, I think, at the time, and we all had tiaras and and crowns.
Looking back, what are some of the skills that you remember that you picked up during your time in those early years that maybe you're still using today?
Yeah, to be honest, being at Pitch was it created the foundation for my entire career. So it really set the building blocks for me to still use to this day. So a couple of the things that I learned were how to craft a pitch, right? Of course, you had already developed like basically a scientific method behind writing a pitch, how to make the subject line someone that a reporter want like something a reporter wants to open, how to, open a pitch to increase engagement. All of those things were really instrumental in just helping me understand that, creating a pitch isn't just about having, a brand name or a well-known product or well-known author, but it's really like understanding how to be creative about crafting a pitch so that a reporter is interested in even opening your email or responding to you. So, really, just like how to craft a pitch, but also how to continue to follow up and how often, how much is too much, how much is not enough. I remember the first time I left a voicemail for a reporter, and we had, a script written, and I was so nervous to pick up the phone and call. And it was on my very first day that you had me call a reporter, leave a message. But I just remember being terrified to pick up the phone and call. But other than that, it's really, also the strategy behind, working in PR and developing strategies for clients. I think, after about a year, you had me really start working more on the strategy side of things, and writing more. So, writing more of the press releases and not just the pitches. You were kind enough to bring me to client meetings at the age of like 22 and 23, and be in more of like client facing role at the time, which is, something that I now try to do for my team members, bring them into the leadership facing type roles, just as you did for me.
I love that. Exposure is the best teacher. So you
Yes.
can do that. I'm glad that you're doing that with your team. That gives me chills. That's great.
Oh.
Um, was there any campaigns or clients that you worked on during your time at Pitch that really stuck out to you or excited you about maybe creating this career in PR that really turned you on to like, okay, this is definitely what I want to do.
I mean, I loved like the dopamine hit of every single placement we got. I would get so excited no matter if it was radio or, in Cosmetology Magazine or the Today Show. They were all equally important to me. I loved all of the clients that I got to work on. I was looking back, and it's really interesting that the type of clients that we had at the time, and I know you still currently have, are a lot in like the natural and like organic space. And I feel like at this time back in 2006, like you were really onto something because
We were ahead of our time, big
you were
time.
ahead of the game, really. Like you found a niche and you really went for it because it wasn't like this holistic wellness wasn't as big back then as it is today. And to work on clients like Dr. Lavelle, I remember pitching his book and the Metabolic Code. Gosh, it seems like so long ago. Also, Dexy 20, like natural like diet supplements, things like that that really you had to get creative. No one was talking about wellness back then like they are today, or very few people were. So I had some really great experiences, particularly with both of those clients, both in the exposure we were able to achieve, and then also just you bringing me into the client facing meetings, and I knew the lead for each of those clients too. So that was great learning for me.
You mentioned James Lavelle, and I just had a memory flash. I took you to Cincinnati, Ohio, didn't I, for a
Yes.
meeting?
Yes, and I think it was in February, 2 degrees.
We were 2 Florida girls, and I
Yeah.
didn't even bring mittens or gloves or anything. I remember we walked out of the airport, and I thought my
Yep.
fingers were going to fall off, and I was like it was my first time in Ohio, and it was with you, and I was like, "I'm never coming back here again."
Same. I think we ended up going shopping because neither one of us were quite prepared.
Yeah, I don't think we had the clothes.
No.
And funny enough, James Valley, he built his whole clinic there in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
He's so well known, but he also evolved and moved to California later. So I'm like, oh, Lauren
Oh,
and I just missed it. Like we should have been doing it when he was in
too
LA. But
soon. I know LA compared to Cincinnati in the wintertime, so different.
it
Yeah.
was such a shock. But I'm glad you got to go with me to that. And I know you went to other things too. Um, Speaking of which, is there so clients, Dexel 10, you mentioned the Hoodia and James Laval, we're still working with him today. I was talking to him on the phone the other day. I'm like,
Aw.
"Can you believe we've been working together this long? It's amazing." But was there any a specific publicity win that you got that, you talk about the dopamine rush. Was there one that you still remember that you were just so proud of when you were at Pitch?
There is one that I still actually brag about today. And it does have to also do with the Hoodia and Dexy 20. It's when, and I just so vividly remember workshopping this in your office, Amy. But it's when we put together the pitch for Fleet Week and ended up getting it on the Today Show. We had a whole tie-in with, I think it was, I wish I could see the clip, to be honest. Like, if you still have that, please send it to me because I would love to just go back in time and watch that. But basically, we hired, I believe they were like personal trainers and put them in like little Navy outfits. And we did a whole segment on like, what are the top 3 things that you can do to lose weight? And one was obviously the client placement that was able to get on the Today Show. But the fact that we had to be so creative and think outside the box, like how are we going to get, a supplement on the Today Show? And it was featured on the Today Show, it in its little box right up there. But that is something that I still remember every stage of it, from workshopping the pitch to getting. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I received the confirmation email from the booking producer. And then you flew me up to New York City. I was 23 at the time. So you
By
must have had some
yourself.
trust.
I let you go by yourself without any supervision.
Without any supervision. No, I was so, excited and nervous at the same time, but, in the end, the results that we got for the client, and then they were able to say that this product has been featured on the Today Show, I know went a really long way with them. So, and then we celebrated after, which was fantastic too.
Yeah, so Lauren's talking about this. So we had this supplement company that we were working with, and they had this Hoodia product supplement called Dexel 10. And we had already gotten them a lot of press, and we were really responsible for the whole media buzz on Dexel 10. But at the time that Lauren was working on this pitch, the buzz had died down a little bit, but the client
Mhm.
still wanted press. And so we were trying to come up with new creative ways to get people re-interested in it. And you're right, we did hire um, a a personal trainer guy, and then we had to get other fitness people model to be part of his fleet crew or
Yep.
whatever. And in the middle of this whole exercise routine that he's doing, he's like, do squats and do lunges and and then take this supplement
Yeah.
too. It was really tricky. And I do remember sending you up there, and I know why I sent you up there by yourself. And it's fun to share this with you now because now you're in the position, that I was in with you, where you have a team. But I remember, my boss always sending me up to New York every time I got a national placement, and she'd always send me by myself, and I've never at the young age, I was, like, excited and grateful that she did it, but I never put 2 and 2 together of how that helped. And so when I had a team, even though I could have gone with you, and of course, who doesn't wanna go to the Today Show? I remember thinking, I'm just gonna send Lauren because she's gonna learn so much more if she goes by herself. If she goes up there with me, then I'm gonna just take over, and she'll still learn stuff, but not in the same way. Do you remember I do remember, like, being on call for you, and I feel like I can't remember exactly, but didn't something almost go wrong and you had to fix it?
something almost went wrong, and they actually almost cut the segment. Um, and I remember taking that call and then calling you. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like, they're saying they might not have enough airtime. They like had re-looked at the segment and were like not sure it's quite a fit. And I'm like, no, like I'm here, like we're doing this. And it ended up like working itself out and they kept the segment and everything was fine. We just had to almost like kind of like repitch it in real time the day before the segment. And I had completely forgotten about that. So thank you I think I blocked that out.
Yeah, I think yeah, but I remember that because it's those, "Oh my gosh" moments,
Yeah.
"My boss has flown me up to here to New York. We've already expensed all this stuff." The client has sent their spokesperson up here, and it's like the day before they have a change of heart, and Lauren really had to go in there and save it, and you did save it, and it was great, so good job.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Well, thanks for having faith in me.
Um, and, all right, so great highlights. We had a great time together. I think we did so much in that condensed period of time that you worked for me, which wasn't very long, about a year and a half. Um, Now let's just talk about something a little bit more uncomfortable, but I really want to dissect this one with you now because I think has some good management and leadership lessons that we can learn from it. But when the Great Recession hit, I don't even know you know, we're talking about our age difference and everything. So Lauren's about 9 years younger than me. So I'm running a company at age like 33, and now I was doing everything that I could to keep everyone paid and things afloat. But the Great Recession, if you don't know that much about it, it was not one of these economic declines where it was like, okay, dip, and a couple of months later it was better. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and you kept thinking, we're going to come out of this in a couple of months, and then you didn't come out of it. So it got so stressful to the point that I had to make some tough decisions, and it was my first experience letting people go. And of course, when you're letting people go, and it's not even because for a bad reason or because they're not producing, like they're good, employees, they're doing their job. It's very heartbreaking, especially in a small business like I had, where everybody feels like family too. Um, but looking back on it now, and I can remember that meeting vividly. I don't know if you do, but how? What was your impression of that final meeting we had, and how did I handle it? I would love to hear your thoughts now that you've been in a leadership role yourself.
No, yeah, of course, and I do remember very vividly, this whole conversation. I have to say that you handled everything so professionally, but even more than that, just with such compassion and care. Um, I knew it was hard for you to do as well, and looking back, I now realize exactly how hard, it was for you. But I think you even had printed out a recommendation letter for me at the time. So you said that it was through no fault of my own and that this was a difficult decision. And it was just given the macroeconomics, right? Like everything was going downhill. And I know that you did what you had to do. But looking back on it, it was really that you were so compassionate to me. And I knew that it was really hard for you and it was really hard for me and it was hard for both of us. But I think that you did the right thing, and I do think everything works out for a reason. I was lucky enough to get a job 6 weeks later, so I wasn't out of work for too long either. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely like taken that same mindset into some difficult conversations that I've had to have now as a leader, and really just what I learned from you in that moment is leading with like a people first attitude. And you're a human first, you're compassionate, lead with that empathy. And you got to share difficult news sometimes, but I think that it's just so important to have the compassion, which you did.
Well, that's good to hear because I've blocked a lot of that too. So I had forgotten that I even written you a recommendation letter, but that's a good point, I think. And I think that a lot of times, um, I think. bosses or managers can kind of shift that off to HR or not be
Right.
there. And I think it's just what you say, like, it's such a good lesson, like, you don't know when you're gonna come in contact with your employees again, and sometimes they can be in positions that can make or break a deal for your company. So I think
Right.
showing up is a number one, like, what you have to do. And, yeah, it's hard to let people go. It was not a fun job. That's why after I had those experiences of letting all of you go and went remote, I was like, "We're not doing this again. I'm not having an office." So there, I can't ask anyone to come to my office anymore and let them go. But it's very difficult. But I think that the impression you leave on people, especially when you spend so much time with them, that
Yeah.
it's so important to like end, even if it's not a good ending, like at least end with compassion.
Yeah. And, we're full circle today, right? So you and I still have a really great relationship. Like we got back on track after all of that, So it was, just, it was a business decision. And, it's something that we had to go through, but we came back stronger than ever.
So let's pivot now, going from the past to more of the present, and talk about some of your roles at Hilton Grand Vacation and maybe some of your other career roles that you've had. You've had such a wide range of communications experience now. Is there any area of PR that you really love the most? If you came to work tomorrow and they said, "Okay, we're doing a new thing," and everybody does one thing for the rest of their career, like, what would you pick?
I don't know if I could if I'm being honest, because the reason I love the role I'm in so much today, which is, corporate communications, is because I get to do so many different things every single day. So whether it's investor relations, media relations, award submissions, corporate social responsibility, issues in crisis, keeps you on your toes. I just feel like what I do now is so well rounded that it would be difficult for me to go back to doing any one single thing. If I had to choose, this may actually surprise you, but I think I would go more into the community impact and corporate social responsibility. Um, so much of my career was focused on media relations, and that's my bread and butter for so long, and I have a lot of knowledge in that. But I think that where my passion is today, it's really with the philanthropy side of things.
Okay. So, I mean, you're the VP of communications now. So, can you walk us through what a typical day looks like for you if there is a typical day?
Yeah, like probably everyone else that you have on your podcast, there's no typical day, right? But I have a family, so I've got a 9-year-old daughter, and I get her up and ready and off to school. She's in 3rd grade, and so I actually start working around like 8:39. One of the first things I do is just scan my emails, see what came through overnight that could potentially be an issue or crisis. And then, just like every other PR communications person, look at the news, right? So I look at I try to anyway look at a variety of at least all the headlines to see what's going on, what the, news cycle is that day. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, I want to be educated on what's going on in the world. But also, it's just so important to be aware of the climate of the day for my teams who are pitching, right? Do we want to hold on this pitch? Like, do we want to hold on a press release that we want to put out? Because if we send something out and it appears tone deaf, that could create its own issue. Or if something really big is going. Every day something big is going on in the world, but sometimes it's worth holding our announcement if there's another big announcement. Um, so that we can maximize coverage in that way. So, really like that's what I do for the mornings. I seem to be more in back-to-back meetings these days than ever before. I've kind of figured out that, the higher you get, the more meetings you have on your calendar and the harder it is to do actual work. So, I'm so thankful that I have such a brilliant and talented team that really helps, with the tactical execution of everything. So that I can focus on, developing strategies and, really try to live up here when a lot of my career I've been here. So that was a big jump for me to make was, setting and leading the strategy and then having the trust in others to really hand it off and delegate and execute. And honestly, it's something that I'm still working on because, I'm so used to being in the weeds. But if I didn't trust the team, then I wouldn't be able to do that at all.
Let's talk about delegation really quick. What's your
Sure.
self-talk you give yourself when you know that you should be handing something off, but you're like, "Oh, but it'd be so much faster if I did it and didn't have to explain all this."
I'm not perfect at it. There's still times when I'm just like, I'm just going to do it real quick because like I am here and like I have team members in different time zones. I'm like, I can just do this really fast. But I do like I tell myself in my head like stop, hand this off. It does not need to be done right this second. It can be done in a few hours when your team member is up. Again, I'm certainly not perfect at that. But I am trying, and I actually put it on my goals for this year is to kind of get out of the weeds a bit more.
Did you That's my word for this year is delegate. I was like, I just need to make
Ah,
it my word of the year. I pick one
love
word
that.
every year instead of like resolutions, but that's funny that you and I both are like working on this.
So aligned, of course.
All right. So kind of taking us through your day. I know that you've done though a lot of crisis communications, and I get a lot of questions about that. That's not something that as you know, that we specialize here at Pitch. I'm always like, no, go hire somebody else for that, please. But a lot of people aren't interested in it, or I've even had some people that have come work for me, and they get themselves in a situation where they are doing crisis communications, and they didn't really realize what they're getting into. So since you've done a lot of it, can you tell us a little bit about you know, give people a heads up. Like if they're going to go into crisis communications, what do they need to be ready for um, to do that type of a role?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, just being a problem solver is a skill that you have to be so strong at to be able to succeed in issues and crisis communications. Also having the kind of mind, and Amy, I think you and I share some of this, to where what is the worst thing that can happen, right? And then you and I can probably think of like 20 things simultaneously that could be the worst thing, and being able to plan for that. So, not just having like a singular way of thinking, but, if it goes this way, how would we handle it versus if it goes this way, how would we handle it? Also, I would say you just have to be so responsive. So, if an issue happens, you need to immediately enact whatever protocol that you have at that company, engage the right stakeholders, whether that's your legal team or whoever else in your company you need to talk to make sure that the media gets fed the statement very, very quickly because they're running with the story or not, right? So, if you do want to have your narrative in there or your statement as part of the overall story, like acting very quickly and under super tight deadlines, is of significant importance. On that note, too, just make sure you're developing relationships with those teams in advance of having an issue or crisis. So, making sure you're connected with the right people, that they know who you are, and they know that when you contact them, that you're going to need really quick turns. I am thankful to have really good relationships, working relationships with all the folks on my teams here. That I need to be able to get information from and also approval for before going back to the media. So um,
You got to be
those are
friends.
really
You got to be friends with the lawyers, right?
got to be friends with the lawyers. That's right. And you have to
They
know.
hold things up all the time. So
No,
right.
well, it depends on who you're working with, right? But I think like over time, once you learn like the company that you're with or the client that you're supporting, and knowing what they would typically say or not say and how much they typically want to say, it just makes the whole process easier. So that's something that, even if I move different companies today, which knock on wood, like I'll be here until I retire, but, like just learning how the company has responded to past situations is so helpful as well, to get things approved pretty quickly.
All right. So I'm hearing you say if you go into crisis communications, you better be a good problem solver. You better be a good bridge builder, relationship person, and not wait till your crisis to like start asking for favors, right?
Yep.
And, you gotta be available, right? You gotta be
Yeah.
on call a little bit. So, this
Yes.
you can't have a 9 to 5 mentality, or I don't work on weekends.
No, no, honestly, I was on call 24/7 for years, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago, that I had some new people join my team, and then I built them up and trusted them to handle issues in crisis that I was able to hand that off to them, so that they were on call for weekends, and I went on, like, a three-day cruise, and I was able to, like, not bring my laptop, which is something I've never done, so that was nice. But yes, to your point, 24/7 issues and crisis support, very important.
Alright, so you mentioned something briefly, but I'm sure a lot of people are dying to know, and this does have to do with pitching. It has to do with pitching yourself within your own company, but you've moved up at Hilton Grand Vacations through several different promotions I've seen over the years, and, Uh, what do you do to make your work and contributions visible without, feeling like you're bragging about yourself all the time? Like, how do you get in front of the right people to start making that upward climb, especially in a corporate environment?
Yeah, this was something that was difficult for me, because I was always just such a hard worker, but I was the type of person I would just keep my head down and just do my job and just do it well and just keep getting media placements and just, go above and beyond, but wouldn't really, like, tout my own success because just for me personally, that just it didn't come naturally to me. So that was definitely a learned behavior for me. I think what it really took is just knowing what the executives need to see, from like a business perspective. So instead of saying, we got like 15 media hits this month, like, well, what does that mean for them? Right. So tying it back to like make it more like how what our strategies are doing to drive the strategic priorities for the company. And that's where I feel that I was really able to like break through, if you will, on what these business leaders were working for and were looking for. And, it was a lot of trial and error, like figuring out what types of reports they wanted to see, what made sense for them, when to get in front of them. Also, a big part of it too was relying on my current boss to, be a cheerleader for me and be supportive. And we just have such a great working relationship. She's amazing, but also finding someone who's in your corner, who's very confident in their own right and able to like share kudos when kudos are due instead of taking all of the credit. They're able to share that with the leadership team, to help raise up their team members as well. So that went a long way.
And how did you verbally communicate that, this was something that you were interested in? Do you wait for your q your reviews, your annual reviews, or do you schedule a meeting, or is there a way that you kinda hint around? Can you give us, like, a specific way that you started letting your boss or manager know, so that she could advocate for you?
Sure. Yeah. In the most part, it was typically done around annual review times. But I also do have weekly, sometimes bi-weekly meetings with my boss. So, I was able to like do check-ins here or there. Of course, I didn't want to ask at every single weekly meeting that we had, but just check-ins to see, what can I be doing better? How can I get more visible with leadership? And, together, we kind of developed a strategy path for me. But, I say to my team too that building your career, you're your own architect of that, right? So it's really you need I need to know what you want to do. And some people want to stay in the role that they're in and they really like that. And that's great. While other people do want to continue to climb the ladder. So, it's something that's really important to me to identify the people who do want to move up in their careers and how can I help them do that. But also, it is their responsibility to put in the work and the thoughtfulness around that too, and have them look for their own opportunities and ways to engage, with leaders and make themselves more visible as well.
So you talk about all this great mentorship you had over the years. Now that you are in a leadership role, and I kind of want to end on this, um, how is your leadership style, and how are you weaving mentorship into your leadership style to make sure that your team is getting an opportunity with you and to let you know where they want to see their careers going?
So I do that in a few ways. We do have weekly check-ins as a team, so everyone on my team joins our call, and I like to share, news that I've heard about the company, and then also have them share kind of like just what they're working on for their day to day. But I also like to check in too, just to see how things are progressing in a few objectives that we set at the beginning of the year. Things like work-life balance, engagement. Are they feeling engaged? Are we having like enough happy hours or coffee chats or things outside of the office? And are they feeling like recognized? Are they feeling really good about the work that they're doing? So I do like to check in on that about quarterly, just to make sure that, I'm filling their buckets in the way that they've told me they would like their buckets filled. And then I also have with my direct reports weekly meetings as well, where we talk both about, what's on their day-to-day plate, but really like to focus those more on their professional development. What have they done to accomplish what they need to do for next steps, and how can I help them get either more visibility or explain things to them for how to work with certain leaders, things like that. So I do try to take a lot of pride in that, because I've had other people just like you, Amy, put me up on their shoulders, and now I feel like it's my turn to kind of give back in that way and help others succeed too.
Well, I love hearing that. And I know that other people watching this are going to want to know how to connect with you. So, what's the best way for our Pitch Live community to connect with you?
So LinkedIn is probably the best way. You can just find me on Lauren George on LinkedIn, and I do check my messages quite often, and I would be happy to connect with anyone on there. And just send me a direct message, and we can set up a call or a chat.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've inspired so many people in your career journey. You've inspired me. So I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed to the work that Lauren is doing. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Amy. This was fun.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope that you were inspired today to get out there, pitch, advocate for yourself. Maybe let your boss know that you want to have a career path, or maybe that you're comfortable right where you are at, and that's okay too. So do as Lauren says and vocalize that. As a bonus, you can join us at enisivox.com, where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link's going to be in the show notes along with all of our social media handles. So let's continue to stay connected and make success happen. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.